First of all, let me just get my guests to introduce themselves very briefly. I'll start with you at the end, Doug.
Hello, test. Yes, hi everybody, Doug Makishima here from Summit Tech. Summit Tech is a leading provider of IMS and RCS software platforms, both on the infrastructure side for mobile operators as well as clients for devices, both downloadable apps and native SDKs for bringing RCS to not only mobile devices but IoT devices. We have a full AI backend as well, and not only focused on messaging but voice and video calling as well, and bringing this type of messaging and interaction technology to things like VR and IoT platforms as well. And I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Summit.
Michael?
Hi there, I'm Mike Bordash, CTO of Context and the General Manager of AI Strategy for Realnetworks. Context itself is a data science platform for messaging, including classification, regression, predictive analytics, to help with industry-specific use cases regarding marketing, commerce, and supply chain. I came from IBM Watson, and we are delivering very significant areas in terms of investing in data science for messaging and classification services.
And Dario.
Hi, it's working, yes. Hi everybody, I'm Dario Tumiati, Chief of Strategic Officer of Agile Telecom. Agile Telecom is part of MailUp Group, that is a marketing strategy and platform based on omnichannel, so email, SMSs, chatbots, and so on. And we are the, let's say, technology part based on messaging for the whole group.
Excellent. Okay, well, as Dario said, not this Dario, the other Dario, the lesser Dario, we don't want to just talk about 5G and RCS and so on. We want to be a bit more big picture than this, and for the last session of the day, be a bit more blue sky about it. So I see from the early results of the poll that AI is scoring very highly. So let's start with AI first. So Mike, I believe you've come over to Context from Watson, right? So you're right in the heart of this industry trend. Maybe you could just give us a brief idea of what you're working on, why AI is going to be important, how it might impact messaging in the next few years.
Well, I think the most important point, that especially when I speak with retail, I'm coming from the retail side, so everything regarding marketing, commerce, and supply chain really has been my expertise. And we found that messaging itself is the foundation for AI for both an interaction perspective, but also for inbound channel. So we found that relationship to be extremely compelling in terms of identifying trends of behavior, either classifying different types of messaging that are flowing through the environment, but also predicting the potential for either fraud or opportunities that a marketer or a commerce professional can take advantage of by completing that cycle between the communication between your end user and your brand, and between those signals that are required to propel the business ahead, to identify opportunities, to score leads, and be able to retain those customers and grow them into valuable, loyal customers for the long term. So Context in particular makes it super easy to use the messages that already exist within an ecosystem today, and layers on the insights required for a business that already has invested in platforms. So we don't reinvent the wheel, we enhance it through the appending of these cognitive insights for different use cases and personae in these enterprises.
Can you just elaborate on what kind of insights you're talking about and how it benefits the brand that's using it?
For sure. So in terms of classification, I mean, I can go deep into data science, which I don't think we really want to go through that today. But classification is really the first area, just what types of messages are flowing through the system. And what we can do with this is identify not only the types, but also the way to transform your quality of service, the end-to-end communication, the speed of which a message gets to the end user, and also be able to predict, more importantly, predict precisely when the types of messages may indicate a problem or an opportunity for the end user. So predictive analytics and looking at regression techniques to find those outliers, those signals in the fog of data to make those decisions for your marketing and your commerce campaigns. And messaging provides that sort of bus in order to trap that behavior, look at that behavior, and be able to discern those signals that are occurring to drive a transaction is probably the easiest thing to think about.
So Dario, you mentioned that you were working on chatbots. So how does AI infuse the way that you use chatbots? What kind of sentiments can you draw, and what kind of behaviors can you use in chatbots that are driven by AI? Dario.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely yes. And our group invested in AI company that is helping us in order to predict on the chatbot side and, as you said, segmentation and prediction of what the customer needs in this kind of scenario. So that's why AI is something that in the very next year is very useful for the messaging
Yeah, I
industry.
agree. The communication that's coming inbound is a channel that you can use and predict emotion. You can use emotion characteristics. Semantic intent is a big thing for us. I'm sure yourself as well, to determine exactly what mode they're in terms of the persona. What is your buyer in? And to
And the mood even.
Absolutely, 100%.
On the CRM side,
Absolutely.
you can understand even the mood, if he's okay, if he's angry or not,
and
and
that
the feeling.
leads to attrition, to even lead scoring on both sides of the equation. You can use it. So if your brand is using something like Salesforce or SAP for CRM, then those classifications, those predictions can go into the CRM system to provide for, as you said, segmentation and
you really
messaging.
need it.
Precisely,
Yeah.
you need that. That's what the use cases. That's what the enterprise is
And
looking
just
for.
to drill into this a little bit, how sophisticated is that? Because like you're in
More than you think.
Okay, so you're in a let's say you're in a conversational customer care or commerce situation with a customer and a brand, and you're trying to discern whether the customer's angry, which I'm presuming that you can do this kind of thing. Is it to what extent is it just looking for a word like "I'm pissed off" or "I'm angry" or "How dare you" or whatever? And how much more subtle is it than that, Mike?
Oh, sure. I can. Yeah, sure. There's two dimensions. There's what's happening in the moment in terms of language and characters and things of that nature. For sure, there's trigger words that can key off of, which is pretty simplistic. Regular expressions, we can capture those words. But more importantly is the persona themselves. Who is this person calling, or who's this individual, and what is their history with the brand? Are they someone that is already loyal? Are they a new customer? And the language that new customers use versus the language that a loyal customer uses is vastly different. That's why AI is so important to make that determination, who they're dealing with. Who is the object of that AI? Are they someone that needs more hand-holding? So it's not necessarily about being pissed off. It's about the nature of the questions and their interaction moments. So if you think about, data science talk about time series. If you think about a customer journey, starting from inception to a loyal customer, there's different patterns that you can detect to determine when a person is crossing through the threshold between a brand new, maybe an anonymous behavior that turns into a first registered user and then goes up the ladder of loyalty over time. Those things, that journey is specific and can be codified, and you can apply math to that in order to then nuance the conversation and make those decisions about how to interact less impactful, and you can get predictable outcomes through that determination. So yes, time series and classification of the behaviors, as well as what's happening in the moment. I think all those paint the picture for AI.
Right. Doug, is this something that you are digging into at Summit?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an AI platform, as I mentioned. We also have a chatbot builder application, and including templates, but spans all the way to full AI. So I think the conversation about AI so far has been about insights and about analytics and about kind of this meta outside the channel, characterizing and making the messaging channel more efficient and effective. Clearly very important and very powerful. We focus more on the chatbot itself, making the chatbot more intelligent. These days, most of the chatbots out there are pretty dumb. They're just templates. They're just following a flow chart. If this, then this choice, present this carousel, so on and so forth. So we're trying to apply kind of Alexa Siri-like intelligence on the back end to the chatbots. So the chatbots can be truly intelligent, not just with natural language processing, so it can be more conversational, but make real decisions, use some of the guidance from the AI on analyzing in terms of analytics and insights on how to improve the conversation, in understanding the mood, sentimental analysis, all of that, sure. But the bot itself should be intelligent so that as I'm interacting as a consumer, it can be more effective and not have to quickly hand over to a live person. So I think that is one area that's very important. Another area is, so we're applying chatbots not just to the traditional e-commerce flow in self-help and self-care, we're also applying it to IoT. So if you think about home automation today, there's a raft of brands and wireless standards and hubs and apps, and it's just a big mess, right, for things like home security, door locks, light bulbs, thermostats. So just like with through an OTT channel or SMS or RCS, you can eliminate the need for an app. in the case of an airline app or Subway sandwiches, whatever your favorite brand is. Likewise, in the IoT space, you can use chatbots to control, monitor, and actually create a whole AI profile to do some very sophisticated things. And here again, you think of a chatbot mostly A to P, person to an app, or vice versa, but this is actually kind of A to thing, so app to thing or person to thing. And here again, we can apply AI to facilitate this control and monitoring of a home or a business, for example.
So what you're talking about there is at the moment you've got a smart home and you've got loads of different platforms, loads of different apps, all controlling different things. And you go on top of that and you say, I'm going to control all of these with a chatbot type interface. So therefore you need one chatbot to interface with lots of different systems that all use different platforms.
One app or one bot to rule them all, right?
So
all I care about as a consumer is turn off the lights.
So first of all,
of them, which room I'm in,
exactly.
What mood, what
So that's a technical challenge, but it's also an identity challenge, because how do these devices know that you're the one giving them the command and so on? Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of those issues, Doug.
Sure, right, and this gets to another area that we're deeply involved in messaging, and that's identity. So again, a lot of identity and security and fraud. A lot of the conversations, a lot of the presentations here through the workshops have been about person-to-person, app-to-person fraud. But here again now, you have devices in your home that have an RCS client or endpoint. They're basically, you think of a bot, the bot is in the network. Well, now the bot or the thing that the RCS stack is in is an actual endpoint. It's a device. So the app in the network or the bot in the network could be talking to a thing in your home, or I could be talking to the thing, and vice versa. So the whole point is now it's not just a matter of I have to prove who I am in terms of my identity and verified sender ID, prove that that's the chat bot that I'm talking to that brand. Now the thing also now needs to be verified in terms of its identity, and I as a user may need to share some of my access control and my rights to the thing, because it's controlling other things in the house. For example, if I come home, I unlock the door, maybe there's some facial recognition, it turns off the alarm system, it notifies certain other members of my family that I'm home, or let's say the last person, the AI in the home, realizes that the last person has left the home, so go into secure mode, turn the thermostat down, shut off all the lights, lock all the doors, arm the security system. So there are a number of things that are very mission critical, but also it gets to privacy and security, and there we need a solution for identity and fraud prevention as well.
Sounds like an absolute nightmare. Dario, have you thought about IoT and the opportunity for messaging in IoT and how that might look and what kind of revenues might be achievable?
There's a lot of messaging-related app with IoT. We saw it in the past with some basically alarm system, as we said before, that you can send instruction via SMSs, and now the evolving is via RCS, chatbots, and even AI in order to predict when you'll be at home based maybe on your position, and connecting to other apps, maybe checking even the traffic in order to, once you are at home, the system will just let you in. So messaging and IoT is something very close, very related, and will evolve in the very near future. Just think about the heater, the Nest, for example, that now is you can control it via Alexa, via Google Home, and so on, and maybe in the near future via RCS, and set the pattern via RCS.
What about the industrial IoT? What about remote meters in, that you can wake up with an SMS, for example? Is that a market that exists now, or is it something for the future?
I can take a little bit of that. For sure, I think there's two dimensions of use cases that have come up lately. Number one, with the baby boomers retiring, it's going to put a strain on healthcare, especially in the United States. So more intelligent IoT, be able to understand what's happening in a home so that you can have remote care dial in, or whether there's motion in a house, there's going to be a massive play there over the next couple of years. In fact, it's already starting today. In terms of the industry, where we have had some success, especially in retail, which is where I come from, is a loss prevention within retail operations. So you have this confluence of 5G, edge AI computing, and AI execution. So all the data that can exist is more intelligently dispersed across these IoT devices, which means that you can have localized understanding of what's going on in the situation. So retail loss prevention, having a network of cameras that also use messaging to identify and alert to individuals when things are occurring through pattern recognition, you're able to better take advantage of those situations as they occur in real time.
Talk about having, when we talk about having machines in the home or maybe automated cars that talk to us, it questions the nature of messaging because we can suddenly be talking about voice. And so what do you, maybe Mike, you could talk a little bit about how, first of all, whether you think that we're going to move towards voice more as an interface, and what the impact of that is for the messaging business, which has traditionally been based on text.
Well, I can start for a little bit on that one. And that's been a lot of my work at IBM was to develop protocols to enable channels for not necessarily a chatbot, but more of an RPA intelligent system that has connections to all the different data sources of an enterprise. And when you look at the types of channels that sort of like a commerce professional or marketing professional or supply chain professional needs to have, those interaction channels become simply enablement points for the bidirectional utilization of that data. So voice is absolutely something that exists. But voice isn't the end-all be-all. Voice is great for the car. It's great to ask an agent, what are my top problems today as you're driving into the office? Or being alerted to when there's a condition that may occur before arriving at your destination. But that's not the end-all be-all, because voice doesn't work in a cubicle environment. You're not going to have people talking all day long at your cubicle. So you're going to have a messaging system in order to have the route. So the importance is to have that intelligent RPA system that sits there in the cloud that knows the different channels that you are enabled for and is able to have that context move from voice to digital to interaction to messaging to push to make sure that it's all orchestrated properly with the right context.
Doug, you want to come in on that?
Sure, yeah, and I think this is another area where AI plays an important role because, it's messaging as a platform. It doesn't necessarily mean that every message has to be text, right? The beauty of RCS and all these other omni-channel platforms is that I can type a text message using my thumbs or my fingers. I can hit that one microphone button and do the speech to text. I've recently discovered the second microphone button, which most millennials and younger people use, and it's just record a voice snippet. Right, and unless I'm in a cubicle, that's much more efficient. So when I'm interacting with a chatbot, I can be typing a message, or maybe I can send voice clips, and it can be like an Alexa or Siri on the back end, and do natural language processing and understand my speech, and send back either a text message or another voice clip.
So it's like a voice macro, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So voice snippets back and forth, but and then of course with RCS and most of the omni-channel messaging platforms, you can also escalate to a voice call. So rather than calling P2P, you can call and talk to Alexa or the equivalent in your chatbot platform. So omni-channel, omni-media, omni-messaging type, right? So this is...
I mean, while you reminded me that you're talking about Alexa, there's the idea that the Alexa or the Echo is a kind of personal bot for an individual. It's a sort of center through which they talk to brands. And there's the whole idea that at the moment we've talked about bots, but we've really talked about a brand having a bot that talks to lots of customers. What about the idea that a customer has a bot that talks to lots of different entities? There was a thing called Facebook M. I don't know how successful that's been, but this idea that you have a bot that does your work for you. Dario, do you think that is coming, and what might that look like?
Well, I think that, it's something that is coming, but omnichannel must be ready for that because it's the base. You cannot have one box that is talking only with only one kind of processor. Right. So you must be ready for this.
Doug, do you want to talk about that idea?
Well, I'm definitely a big fan of the personal assistant bot, right? The bot that does, my bidding and does things on my behalf. It's interesting. Andy Rubin, who was the father of Android, EVP at Google, started Essential. He was working on, may still be working on a new type of device that incorporates a lot of AI into the OS. And the whole concept was that device should be working for me. So it's not just these chatbots and the intelligence out in the cloud that's learning about me and presenting things to me, brands and services and maybe your home, but it can be the other way around. And so his was device or OS centric, but that bot or that assistant can live anywhere. It can be on the device or it can be in the cloud, but it learns my preferences, it responds on my behalf, it does research, it learns my behaviors and my itinerary and really becomes helpful in that way. And
it's a difficult question to answer, but I'll ask Mike this one. So this idea of having a personal assistant bot, how might that actually evolve? I mean, it's a nice concept, but who's going to own it? Who's going to facilitate it? Who's going to host it? What's it going to look like in terms of user interface? Have you given any thought to these ideas?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, one of the patents I hold is something called the Embedded Business AI, which is directed towards KPI-based assistance. So whether you're a human or whether you're an instance or a bot itself, or whether you're a business, you have these KPIs that drive your goals. They're going to, you have a personal means to run your life. You have a business means to run your life, and you codify those sort of hurdles, those KPIs that mean success for you. So this particular concept begins with the understanding of the importance of your being. And in order to codify that, that gives the bot meaning to exist. The bot is there to make sure that your KPIs aren't drifting down and that your KPIs are always being committed to based on the enablement of all these different data sources. So for a business, it's super simple. Your KPIs could be customer attrition, reducing that or increasing your loyalty chains. And there are different patterns of behavior that exist over time to move you in that direction, move the business in that direction through predictive analytics and analysis of these events that occur. So that is, it's easy to have this personal assistant assist for the business. On the personal side, these are existential questions. Who hosts it? Well, there's only a couple today. You have Apple and you have Google. You have only a few, and it really goes down to who do you trust. So if you imagine the concepts and the math behind this AI as all being relatively simple, and we actually all work together on the data science side. We're sharing algorithms. We're very communal in terms of how we approach these problems. It's who do you trust with your data is going to be the question that you have to ask yourselves, especially the individual that it's individual choice, and that's what we want to see. We want to see you, make the right decision in terms of who do you trust. I think Apple right now is the forerunner in terms of trust. Probably Google is way second. Microsoft will be coming up in the third. So I think those three are the tops.
And what is an individual's KPI? Give me an example of the kind of thing.
Being home on time for dinner, making sure that you help your kids with school. And these are things that get away from individuals if you are focused on your business 24/7. I'm a startup guy, and I spend 80 hours a week working. And guess what? My personal KPIs went way the hell down.
And what you kind of gamify that? You have like data visualizations of it.
A lot of cues could be taken from the AI developed for games and MMORPGs. A lot of the AI that's worked in there is starting to come back into general usage, and that is exactly what we talk about in the data science industry. And that's our playground, honestly, is the NPCs and MMORPGs, if that makes sense, is to have those KPIs, those goals reflect us as humans and be able to interact as such.
So at
high score, you got home and got your kids' homework done with them.
You tell your wife, hey, I have a score of 100. Why are you still mad at me?
Well, exactly. But can we improve on this KPI bot to not just monitor and prod, but actually achieve the KPIs? So just do my work for me and make the dinner. Now it's interesting because at Summit we incubated a company or a concept and created a product called Stick, and it's a chatbot based, and it's AI based, and it hopefully doesn't step on any of your IPR, but with that patent.
I'll look it up.
No. But it's doing something very similar to what Mike said. You choose goals, and it helps you achieve the goals by rewarding you, but reminding you, and also giving you incentives to achieve the goals. And again, that's gamifying.
Well, if either of you are successful with your IP, you can sue each other, can't you?
I'll have my bot sue his bot.
Yeah, get your bots to sue each other. Okay, well, I think we're up to 5 o'clock now. So a really fascinating discussion. Thank you for keeping it so lively at the end of the session. I think there's some kind of drinks now, but I'm going to hand you back to Dario. Thanks to the panel. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.